Okay, so thanks a lot for joining. We are in yet another webinar, more or less the third one as far as chapter one is concerned in terms of the short notes and the series of, shortening the chapter one sessions. So this is the third one and basically the last one as far as chapter one is concerned. Okay, because last 2 weeks we have looked at uh, so chapter one has three parts basically. First part, we looked at the basics, then we looked at the economic systems, which was the second, and then today we will look at the PPC. And with that, the three sections are covered. So that's good. There's a nice short note that we have put for chapter one now, along with this as well, right? So we can continue like that, basically for the next set also. So hopefully, as far as the short note is concerned, guys, use that, study that, because as I always say, you can't really, you're not a computer, okay, to remember everything that is there in the tune and everything that is there in your theory. You're not a computer, and to be very honest, even if you do remember all of it, right, by hearting all of it is not enough, which is why you need to have a short note, because you will remember the most important parts, and then using that you will be able to do questions. You have to do an enormous amount of past paper questions and also model questions. So we will come to that round later. Now that the short notes are done, next what we have to do is the past papers. So that round will be given separately. These videos also will be, uploaded as VODs to your respective classrooms. That is why the attendance count is also less. See, the truth is, some of you attend these religiously and then you put up the short notes religiously. That is very good. And to be very honest, if you all see the top 10 scorers also, the people who have been doing these religiously are the ones who are getting into that top 10. So you understand that that is more or less the most important thing you need to be doing. Now the others, I mean, obviously these guys are, you know, taking their time, not prioritizing this, whatever's and whatnots. But the truth about A levels is that the more and more you deprioritize your theory, your notes, your studies, the more and more you have to catch up, you know, because that is worse. So people who are attending these regularly attend, ensure that whenever I give you a short note, then and there you finish it. Because otherwise, imagine now the ones in the classes, also the ones who have not really attended the first two webinars, they have an entire bucket load of stuff to now write in terms of the short notes. You need the short notes if you want to do past papers. So next will be past papers. Then what happens? Then you are left behind. And then if you don't do that also, by the time we finish chapter 2, this entire set will be done for chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4. Like by the time we hit chapter 12 and all, if you still haven't done a lot, you'll be doing a lot of catch-up work in when you're closer to your exams. Like in level 25, again, there are people who are doing catch-up right now. That's not what you're supposed to do. So I'm happy that you guys are the ones who are joining, and I'm happy to see your names in the top 10. People who haven't made it to the top 10, you should try your best to use these short notes, practice more past paper questions, and get into that top 10. That is the whole group point of having these short notes to do that. Okay. So what we have today is we have to discuss about the PPCs. PPC doesn't require a lot of time as long as you understand what the basics are. There's like about, I guess, about 4 important sections to learn under PPC itself. Like what is a PPC about? What are we drawing? What are we doing basically? What are the assumptions? There are those basics, and then how to use PPC to show certain things. And then, allocative efficiency, productive efficiency, that part. And then in terms of PPC movement, what it is. So there are kind of like 4 areas. Back to back, we will finish one by one. And then now we will put up a short note while we go through it as well. And we will proceed. Okay. So the tute is already uploaded as usual. For the students who already attend classes, you should have already gotten chapter 1 tute by now. So you don't have to download this or anything. It's okay if you want to download it and keep. But if there are any external students who are not part of our classes who are attending these webinars, you guys should download the tutes. link to download Tutkela we have given here. You should basically go and download it. You can print it. And then today when I go through the tube, you can take screenshots and you can fill the tube as well. Okay. So that is for the external ones. Internal ones, our class students, you all already have. Okay. So I think we are good to start. Let's start. So, right. So in this video, right, what we are going to look at is summarizing the PPC, production possibility curves. Yes, that's the third part of chapter 1 in our series of videos that we are doing in terms of the short note. So just like for the previous sections, we are going to look at the most important parts of the PPC, and then we are going to put that as a short note when it comes to our chapter 1 short note, which is what you are supposed to use when you are studying. Okay. Before going into, the details of the theory part and, looking at each of these theoretical parts and all of that, let me summarize PPC in 2 minutes, right? We'll look at what this actually is, because then end of the day, all of these theory parts that we are going to learn becomes very straightforward. Okay. PPC is essentially, okay, what we call as production possibility curves, right? What it essentially is it's a graph. That's what it is, right? There is an y-axis and there's an x-axis. Okay. Now, earlier, we already learned what are the factors of production. We said we have 4 factors of production: land, labor, okay, capital, entrepreneurship. Leave capital out. Sorry, leave entrepreneurship out, because end of the day, that's, kind of like what we need in terms of combining the factors of production. But take land, labor, capital, right? Let's say all of us are stuck in an island, a small island, technically, right? And let's say there are 100 trees in that island. So the land component is basically the trees that we have. And when we cut those, we get the logs. No. So let's say we have 100 trees. We have 100 trees as far as our, this is concerned. Land. That is all. We are in an island right now. Okay. Stuck and marooned on an island which has a lot of trees. Not Sri Lanka, something much smaller than that. Ari. Labor. Let's say there are 100 of us, and all 100 of us are carpenters. Okay. So let's just assume, fine, we have 100 carpenters. That's it. No more, no less. Okay. So that's that. And in terms of capital also, let's assume there are saw, those things, saw, this is that saw, okay. And like machines where we can make tables and chairs, kind of like furniture. So there is machinery, and then there is something like saw and woodcutter and these kind of things. That's more or less the capital that we have. Okay. Now, if we are to take this scenario, okay, and if we are to say, okay, there are 100 trees, there are 100 carpenters, and then there are limited amount of machines and saws in this island of ours. Hari, technically, what a PPC shows is, right? PPC shows the relationship, or basically the possibilities of creating 2 things. Let's say all of us, the 100 carpenters we have, we know to either produce beds or we know to produce tables. That's it. We don't know to produce anything else, because we anyways have trees, so we have to produce furniture anyways. So either we know how to produce beds or we know how to produce tables. This is all we know. Assume like that. Now, let's also assume that using 100 trees, okay, if we are to produce only beds, maybe from 1 tree, maybe let's say we can produce 10 beds, just for a random number, right? And all of us, if we get together and start making from those 100 trees that we have, 10 beds means we can actually make a total of 1,000 beds. That's basically what the number is. So if I take my 2 axes on the graph, I'm going to put my y-axis as the beds and my x-axis, I'm going to go as tables. Okay. So this is what a PPC is, technically. This is what a PPC is. Okay. So in terms of the numbers, if I am producing 1,000 beds, I am using all 100 trees to produce those 1,000 beds. Okay. Which means I'm not going to have all my 100 carpenters are also going to work only on the beds. machine, saw, everything is only on the bed. So then technically there is nobody to produce tables. Okay. And technically there is no trees also to produce the tables, no capital also to produce the table. So if my entire focus is only on the beds, I get to produce 1,000 beds, but 0 tables. Because end of the day, I have limited number of trees, limited number of carpenters, and limited amount of machines and so on. It's not like I have unlimited, right? I have limited. If I put my resources into beds, 1,000 is the maximum. Let's assume we are like workaholics, huh? We don't want beds or anything like that. We want tables, right? So let's say 0, 0 then. I'm not going to build any beds at all, right? My full focus is going to go on the tables. You're all studying students, anyway, not like y'all, right? But let's just assume. And let's assume from one tree, we can produce, let's say 5 tables scale, that kind of a ratio. If we take from 100 trees, we can produce 500 tables. So instead of producing even a single bed, if I produce everything as table, 0 beds, I can produce a maximum of 500 tables. So technically, then if I want to plot this on a graph, this is 0, right? So then let's say this is 250, 500, 750, 1,000. So this is 250. You should be able to draw these by now. This is why they asked for commerce. If you want to do A-level commerce, you should have at least a C pass in maths. Because you should know how to draw these graphs and do some simple calculations and things like that. That is why they ask for maths. So even if you don't know now, it's okay. You learn now. So I have broken down, I've drawn this on the y-axis, drawn it as bets, 250, 500, 750,000. Here I've broken it down. And on this side, let me break it down into hundreds, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So let's break it down like that. So this is 100. Let me just this in this thing itself. So this is 100. This is 200. This is 3. This is 4. And this is 5. Okay. Now plot this. Plot these 2 points. Let's assume this point is A and this point is B or C, let's say. Where is A? A is 1,000 beds, which means we're talking about this one. 0 tables, 1,000 beds. This is A. Yes. Where is C? 0 beds, but 500 tables, which is this one over here. This is C. Now, if this is the case, look at what's happening here. Either I have sacrificed my choice of making tables and everything I am producing beds, or I am sacrificing beds and everything I am producing is tables, right? Or in the middle, I can go for another option also. I can actually go for different options. End of the day, for an example, let's say I want to produce 500 beds. Can a half bed. Can I go for 500 tables? No, because the maximum I can produce in terms of tables is 500. But I'm already using half the trees, 50 trees. I'm actually using to produce beds. That means only another 50 trees is left. Agreed? So if 50 trees are left, I can't actually produce 500. No. I told you already, out of one tree can produce 5 tables here. So if I'm producing 50 trees, if I'm using to produce the beds, remaining 50 trees, I can only produce 250 tables. So this is half, that is also half. From beds 500 none, tables also should be half, 250. That's the middle. So like that, to be very honest, production possibilities curve means if your economy has only 2 products and if your resources are limited, what are all the different possibilities you get? That is what this curve shows. So what is B? 500 beds. So this one, 500 beds, somewhere here, 250. 250 means somewhere here. So let's say this one, this point over here, this is B. So PPC curve says, okay, if you draw a line connecting these 3 points like this, slightly missed, no? We'll, we'll connect it and then draw that. Yeah. So drawing this on paint is very difficult task. So I will draw this and then I will connect these two. So technically then somewhere here is going to be, this is point B basically. Okay. Not the greatest of access that you can take when drawing with paint. So you understand what I'm trying to show here? Yes. Basically what we've shown here is production possibilities curve means from the two options, tables and beds that we have, what are all the different possibilities? For an example, this is also a possibility. 750 beds if I am producing, okay? If I am producing, let's say 750 beds, how many tables can I produce? Somewhere around 150, I guess. මෙන්න මේ වගේ relationship එක. 750 beds means only 150 tables, something like that. Or let's say 250 beds means, so if I draw like that, 250 beds means 400 tables I can produce. So production possibilities curve, any point on this curve, wherever you take, it's a possibility. Now this possibility is what? Somewhere around 450 and somewhere around 100 and whatever, 75 or 150 or something. What about this possibility? 200 tables and somewhere around 600 or 550 beds or something. So these are all the different possibilities that we have. So this is a simple production possibilities frontier, end of the day. That's what we are saying, production possibilities curve. It's also called as production possibilities boundary. It's also called as production possibilities frontier. Any of these words are okay. Boundary, curve, right? Frontier, all of these are fine. So one of the things you need to understand here is, right? The main thing, the first main thing for you to understand is, if I want to increase the number of tables, the more and more tables I want to produce, okay, what should I sacrifice? The more and more beds I should sacrifice. Correct? Don't you agree? When I am increasing the tables from 0 to 250 to 500, I'm increasing the tables, no? But what's happening to my beds? From 1000 to 500 to 0. This is decreasing. So if I want more of one thing, I have to sacrifice something else. See, in the previous section, in chapter 1, the basic econ, we studied something called opportunity costs. Remember, OC. What is opportunity cost? Whenever we have scarcity. Yes, scarcity leads to alternative uses. Now, this is alternative uses, no? Either we can produce beds or either we can produce tables. We have an alternative number of uses. This many beds, this many tables. These are alternative uses. And when we have alternative uses, we have to make a choice. End of the day. We can't have everything. We have to make a choice. The moment we make a choice, what happens? Trade-off happens because we are sacrificing everything else. And from that, we can actually measure opportunity costs, the value of that second best sacrifice, right? So this relationship between these tables and the beds, when we want to increase the tables, we have to reduce the beds. That kind of like shows what? The opportunity costs. So technically then, this PPC is built on the premise of what? Opportunity cost. That's the first thing you need to understand. Okay. Second thing you need to understand is, remove all of this first and foremost, it's directly linked to the opportunity cost and the scarcity part. Okay. So any point you have here, whether it's this one or this one or B or this one or this one or this one, any point on this curve, all of these points, yes, whether like you can choose whichever you want. These are all what we call as what? Production possibilities. End of the day, this is the list of all different sort of production possibilities that we have when we are talking about PPC. That's the first point. Okay. Now tell me, there are some assumptions we are making when it comes to drawing this curve. Main assumption number 1 is, okay, first and foremost, when we wanted to draw all of this, we assumed that we are fully using. All 100 trees are used. All 100 carpenters are used. All the capital is used. So one of the main assumptions we took when drawing this is what? Full utilization of resources. We assume that, no? We didn't leave even a tree, no? All 100 trees use karot only, if we use only, we are getting that 1000 beds or 500 tables maximum. So we are assuming for all of these things, we fully used all the, that's the first one, all the resources, land, labor, capital, everything, full utilization. And second, we are also assuming that we did full production from whatever the full, amount of things we had. We have actually utilized all the resources and we have done a full production as well. So full utilization of resources first and foremost. Like this now in this table, they have said assumptions used to construct PPC. So technically 4 main assumptions you need to remember. One is full utilization / full production. Okay, both of them. Second, right, I'll put the utilization with the production. We have also assumed only 2 goods. Yes, we didn't say 3, we didn't say 4, because if we are using beds, tables, chairs, window, if we do more than 2, we can't draw it in a XY curve. Assume there is also doors. Then X, Y, you might have to put a Z curve also. Like a Z axis, X, Y, Z axis. You can't draw that. So we are limited. PPC is, to be honest, limited. In your island, in your country, you can produce only 2 goods. That is another assumption you're making. Production is only 2 goods. Okay. The third assumption you're making is this resource stock. What do you mean by resource stock? The land, labor, capital should remain constant. We can't change it. Because if we increase the number of trees, all of a sudden, then the beds also will increase, no? So then we can't draw that PPC curve like this. So that's the next assumption. We are assuming that we have only 100 trees, 100 carpenters. That's all. Machines and saw, whatever number we have, 10 or 20 we have, that's limited. So that's the third one. And one more in this list we have said, technology also should remain constant. Why? If technology increases or decreases, then this entire thing, now earlier you remember I said from 1 tree we can make only how many 100 beds, no, 10 beds, and from 1 tree we can make 5 tables. That's the ratio I took. No, now what if technology changes? If we have a completely new machine, right? Instead of like one tree welling, from 1 tree I said 10 beds, and from 1 tree I said 5 tree from 5 tables. This is the ratio I said actually. Beds and trees. This is the ratio I went for. If we have better technology, new machines, sometimes we can produce things faster and more efficiently and better. So maybe from 1 tree in future in technology, when technology comes in, who knows? From 1 tree, maybe we can, sorry, this is not trees, it's tables. From 1 tree, maybe we can even produce 7 tables if technology goes up. So if that happens, then this whole thing changes, no? Then the whole thing is wrong, no? So PPC has 4 main assumptions. What are those 4 main assumptions? These 4. That is what has to go into our short notebook. The first point that has to go into our short notebook is, first and foremost, we have to start off with the definition. So see how nicely, right? End of the day, it's the same thing. What we learned so far using that graph. So moving into PPC, right? Production, possibilities, curve, PPC. The first point that has to go into our this thing is the definition. What is the definition of the PPC in the tube? You can see it says line drawn on the maximum output combination of 2 goods at a given time period. Correct? No, 2 goods given time period, maximum output by fully utilizing all the resources with maximum efficiency and prevailing technology. So that's the first thing we need to go into the short note, first and foremost. Second thing that we have to put to the short note is the assumptions. Like we said, there are 4 main assumptions, right? What are the 4 main assumptions? We said production has to happen of only 2 goods. Resource stock should remain constant. Technology should remain constant. And full utilization of resources with maximum efficiency. Full production, basically. Full production. So these are the 4 assumptions, and we have already learned these 4. So that is your second point. Yes. So next one. One more point after that is this one. What are the factors that determine the PPF? Now for an example, let's say, forget about these assumptions now. Let's say these assumptions can be changed. Okay. Let's say I want to increase the number of beds I'm producing. What does that depend on? First and foremost, if I want more beds than 1,000, one thing I want to touch on here also is, now all of these we said are production possibilities. Okay. What if I always want something above life? In that this TV series called Suits. It's about lawyers, right? In that there's a character called Harvey Specter. He says, life is like this. Okay, life is like this. I want this. I want always above what life can offer. So I am also a person like that, over ambitious. Sometimes, people can say, what if we want this point? What is this point? Look at this. How many tables is this? 600, 700, somewhere around 650 tables. Okay, that is this. 650 tables and how many? Somewhere around, let's say 700 beds. So 700 beds and 650 tables. Using that 100 trees, can we go for 700? So if we want 700 beds, if you divide this by 10, I told you 10, so then that's basically 70 trees. And if I divide 650 by 5, I told the ratio is 5, 650 divided by 5 is, what is 65 divided by 5? 11, 12, 13. 13, no? 130, so basically, yeah. I need 130 trees if I want to produce this one. And I need another 70 trees if I want to produce this one. Which means a total of 200 trees I want. Do I have 200 trees with me right now? How many trees do I have? Only 100. So can I come here? Can I get here? No. Why can't I get there? Because I don't have enough trees. I don't have enough carpenters also. I will need 200 trees and 200 carpenters and more machines also. With this economy in this island, because we have only 100 carpenters and 100 trees in this island, we can't achieve this. What is this called? Scarcity. Any point that is outside the curve shows what? Scarcity. Why? Because we don't have enough resources to get there. 200 trees we want, 200 carpenters we want. Do we have? No, we don't have, which means that is scarcity. It shows scarcity. What is scarcity? Not enough resources. Unlimited wants. We are over ambitious. We want 700 beds and 650 tables. So unlimited wants, but do we have enough resources? Back. Back. So remember, any point outside the PPC shows scarcity. Any point on the PPC shows full utilization, full production. Any point outside the curve shows scarcity. And now there are those of you who are, if life is this and if I want this, right? There are those people, if life is this, they are okay with this. Below. If you think about that perspective, think about a point inside. Let's say this point over here, somewhere here. What is this point? Let's say this is 250 beds, okay, and 100 tables. Now we are talking about the other way around. Yes. Now we are not saying we need 700 and whatever, 650, whatever, right? Now we are saying we are going for how many? 250 beds and 100 tables. Okay, which means how many trees have we used? How many carpenters have we used? We said 10, no? 1:10 ratio. So 250 divided by 10 means we have only used 25. No, yeah. 100 trees into 10, no? Yeah, so 25 trees we have used for this 250 beds divided by 10. Method I told you divided by 5 because one tree is 5 tables. No, that's the ratio we took, right? Because method this is 500, this is 1000. So here we have taken a 1:10 ratio. Here we have taken a 1:5 ratio. 100 trees means 500 tables. 100 trees means 1000 tables, 1000 beds, like that. So then 100 divided by 5 means 20. So I have used 20 trees here. I have used 25 trees here, which means a total of how many trees have I used? 45 trees only I have used, and maybe 45 carpenters. Let's think like that also. How many trees are there? 100 trees are there. Out of that, how many trees did I use? 45. Which means how many did I waste? 55 trees I have wasted. How many carpenters are there? 100. Out of that 45, let's say I used. How many carpenters have I wasted? 55 carpenters I have wasted. You know who this is? This is you. This is Oya. Why? If you use your time properly and your resources properly, your teachers, your tutors, your short notes, your VODs, your past papers, you will be on the PPC curve, which is what? 3A. A, basically, and university entrance and whatever. Okay. Where are you? Most of you are here. Why? Don't use your time properly. Don't use your resources properly. Webinar they are sleeping and waiting, right? Classes they are sleeping and waiting. They are inside. If life is here, some of us want above, but the remaining maybe 1% want above life. Maybe the remaining 99% actually want below life. They are below life and they don't even realize they are there. So this is that below. We say at this point, any point inside the PPC curve, it shows what? Underutilization or wastage of resources. Yes, you're wasting 55 trees. You're wasting 55 carpenters. They're just waiting. They're idle resources or wastage of resources or underutilization of resources. The full potential is not realized. That is what the PPC curve shows. So any point inside the curve means what? Underutilization or wastage or idle resources, which is applicable for your lives also. Yes. How many of you got 9As for O levels? 9A is the PPC curve. Yes. 3A is the PPC curve. If you use your resources properly, if you use your labor properly, your capital, your technology properly, you will be able to get that. But if you're getting below that, what does that mean? Underutilization, wastage, idle resources. Yes, them younger in TikTok and all. Some buggers are dancing and waiting. You are just looking at that and you are laughing and waiting. Whereas your result is there in the corner, laughing and waiting at you. So your life also can be explained in what? PPC curves. It is what it is. Yes. If you take your result, if you obviously, I guess from outside your PPC curve probably is the ranking, the island ranking and stuff. It's scarcity, maybe with the resources you have right now, probably you can't get, or if with the time you have right now, maybe you can't get there, or the technology you have right now, you can't get there, but we can get there actually. In PPC also, we can get there. That's what we are going to talk about next. See, if we want to go here, now forget about the underutilization, wastage, idle resources. If you properly use them, you can come to the curve now, right? So I'll draw a new curve here. If I were to come outside the curve, right? So this is our curve. We have the x-axis, the y-axis. And earlier we drew the PPC curve like this. And we said any point inside the curve means wastage or underutilization. Any point on the curve means full utilization, full production. Any point outside the curve means scarcity. To be honest, if you want to get here, let's say you want to get here, right? You want to somehow move this entire PPC curve to the right. You want to put that effort, you want to develop your economy, and you want to become a ranker. You want to get here. You want to push this PPC curve here. This is there. This is what happens when it comes to economic development, right? Earlier, what was the maximum number of beds? 1,000 beds. What's the maximum number of tables? 500 tables. Now, maybe let's say this is 2,000 beds maximum. Here, let's say this is 750 tables. If you want to push your PPC curve there, what are the things you need to change, right? Do you think with 100 trees you can do this? No, you can't. Do you think with 100 carpenters you can do this? No, you can't. Do you think with the capital, the machines you have right now, you can do this? No, you can't. Then how do you increase the trees? That is what the PPC depends on. So that is what we are talking about in this section. PPC depends on two things. One is resource stock, which is also called as resources endowment. Second one is factor productivity. Two things it's dependent on. If you want to push the PPC curve outside, become a ranker and move out, two things you have to focus on. One is resource stock. The other one is factor productivity. When we are talking about resource stock, you have to think, okay, how can I increase my land? How can I increase my labor? How can I increase my capital? We'll talk about that in the last section of the tute, to be honest. Now, for an example, right? How do you increase the number of trees? If you're stuck in an island and your island is a small island, the amount of trees that are there in that island is only 100. Then what should you do? Maybe plant more trees. Then you will get more trees. Or find another island and invade it and colonize it. Isn't that what the Europeans did? Huh? British, Dutch. What? Sri Lanka was caught by what? The Portuguese, then the British, then the Dutch. They came and all which they went, right? I mean, if you're taking no, the yes. It's about increasing their resource stock. They had limited land, limited labor, limited capital. When they went out, colonized every other country in the world, Africa, Asia, when they colonized, what did they get? Labor. Slavery, they took all the slaves, went and built America. You all know the history. If you don't know, you should join one of the literature sessions and probably follow the history parts. How the entire African continent was colonized. And basically, they took those fellows as slaves and went and built America. Labor. That's how they increased labor. This is economics. I guess colonialists were all economists. Yes, they realized factors of production and then they went and stole other countries. So there are ways in which you can increase factors. Your resource stock. One is colonization, invasion, all these things. But you also have the legal ways of doing it. For an example, planting new trees, right? Creating new resources. Those are actually legal. What's stopping you from planting an entire set of trees and using that as resources? So one of the most important things if you want to get out there is resource stock. Second, productivity. Let's say you have only 100 carpenters, or let's say you have only 100 trees basically. But if you have new technology that comes in, maybe using that new technology, you can produce things faster. Now, for an example, 100 years ago, they were stitching t-shirts with the hand. But now, t-shirts are being stitched via machines. It's fast. Using the same amount of people, they can double the production because it's faster now. So maybe new technology can change things. Yes. And then we also come to the other part, which is if you bring in managers, they will supervise and that will also increase efficiency, right? If you bring in new inventions, patents, right? Human capital includes those. So, or if you train your laborers, they will become more efficient. So that is also their productivity. Or division of labor, divide and give the work so that everybody becomes efficient in whatever they are doing. So these are the 4 important things when it comes to the productivity. So that is what I'm going to put in your short note as well. Now, how do you apply this for your A-levels? How do you get to that ranker, push your PPC curve outside and get to that ranker part? Use technology first and foremost. ChatGPT is there to study, right? End of the day, don't take everything from it because sometimes it's wrong also. But it actually can be used as a teacher. Now, those days we didn't have that. Nowadays, you can give a question directly and it will give you the answer. Any past paper, let's say you can't understand, you give it, it will answer and it will clear your doubt. If you can't clear that from ChatGPT, you can go and ask your teachers. End of the day. Yes. factors that determine PPC. You can use technology. So that's the first one, right? Or you can say manage your time better. We have said, management. So you can manage your time better, right? Or you can bring in any sort of ways in which you can do faster things, like, build up a tracker for yourselves, follow all the past papers you all are doing. Every time you do a past paper, you tick it, right? Become more efficient, because doing these short notes, I always say, right, doing these short notes is not enough. You need to learn this, and then you need to do the past papers. And then when you do the past papers, you need to do the model papers. When you do that only, your brain starts working. You start pushing your PPC curve outside, right? And then in terms of land labor capital, of course, I mean, you can't go and steal other people's stuff. But what you can do is get some more books, get some more papers, buy, there's a book fair going on, get the books, get the papers, get model papers, try these on your own, increase the amount of resources you have. From our side, we will give you tunes notes, short notes, past papers, classified, all of that we will give. But in addition to that, you can collect model papers, you can do those, you can collect school papers. Ape kale handurone, there were some students who went and just to police saying we are taking school papers, they went and spoke to all these girls and police they were taking school papers. One benefit we got was because we went and took all those school papers, we also got a lot of school papers. Maybe I'm giving you ideas, I don't know if I'm giving you ideas, but there were people like that, yes. But end of the day, it's about increasing the resources that you have. So you can apply that. You can apply that to your own life, and you can basically increase your PPC, right? I mean, it's just an example. You can't draw a PPC curve for your O levels, A levels, and things like that, because PPC curve has what limited. What are the assumptions? Production of only two goods. O level, A level is not production of only two goods. No, so I just took it as an example to explain. But PPC, if you're drawing a PPC, these are the main assumptions you have. You have to assume you're producing two goods, right? Resource stock should remain constant, technology should remain constant. So it's a model theory we have used, assuming that this country can produce only two goods. You to be honest, you can't even draw a PPC for a real country. If you take Sri Lanka, is it only two goods we are producing? We are producing a million goods basically, right? So you can't technically draw a PPC, but economics is about model theories. It's about model scenarios where we apply those scenarios to the bigger picture. That is what economics is about. But as far as PPC is concerned, it's a basic theory, right? Which helps us understand certain elements, which I explained right now. It's about utilizing those resources. So maybe we are producing a million products out there, but think, okay, maybe we are producing only two. Let's say you are having a factory. You put a PPC curve for your factory. Let's say you're a Damro or something, but maybe just put a PPC curve for beds and tables. Then you will understand, okay, this is the land labor capital I have. This is the maximum beds I can produce, maximum tables I can produce. Am I producing on the PPC curve, or am I within? Am I wasting my resources? Is my resources idle, or am I, fully utilizing? And what should I do to get outside the PPC, to push and to grow? Those are the things we get to understand by using a PPC. Yes, but it's a very limited theory. Okay, so these are the main things you need to know first and foremost. We have covered I guess the main part of the PPC end of the day is covered. That's the truth, because the rest is like, whatever we learned so far, right? I'm just going to say example chart. What I drew in terms of the chart, I'm going to bring that here. But we learned so far only after this repeats, more or less. Whatever we have learned so far is only now going to rotate around. Okay. So you can take a screenshot of this, and then we will move to the next section. I'll just keep it like this, maybe. Yeah. You can take a screenshot of this and then add this to the note. I guess this is probably there in the notes also, but just enter it to the short note as well. All right. So this is the first part that's over. Next, we have to cover opportunity costs, and then we have to cover the economic concepts. With that, main section of PPC is over. Lastly, we have to cover economic efficiency. right? Right. So we're going to talk about the second part of the PPC now. Firstly, I explained all the assumptions and all of that. I showed you a short part of what the PPC was about. Now we are going to look at the second bit, which is opportunity cost. How does, now we already told you, right? Because we are sacrificing. The more number of beds we want to have, yes, we sacrifice tables. No, or actually, when we increase the beds, we actually sacrifice the tables. So sorry, when we increase the tables, we sacrifice the beds. The other way around also is possible. End of that. If you want to increase the bed, you have to sacrifice tables. So PPC is about that. PPC is like you can't have everything. You have to sacrifice one thing to get the other. So that's basically what we are going to talk about in the next section. PPC shows primarily the way a PPC curve is drawn. So there are three ways to draw PPCs. One is straight line like this. Another one is pregnant like that. The other one is right. I call this the straight one, the pregnant or the minister belly, and then the gym body, gym belly, right? Where you have this shape. So there are three shapes, right? So I'll add that to the short note. We say these three shapes gives us. Sorry, these three shapes gives us. So I'm gonna say this is PPC first one. Second section we will say is about opportunity costs. PPC curve shows opportunity costs. The shape of the PPC curve will actually show what is the opportunity cost. So we'll talk about this. So these three. If the opportunity cost is constant, we say it will be a straight line curve. If the opportunity cost is increasing, we say it will be a minister belly, the concave to the origin. If the opportunity cost is decreasing, we say it's a convex to the origin, or like the gym body belly. Now, what does this mean? That's what we are going to look at now in a simple way. Increasing opportunity cost, decreasing opportunity cost, constant opportunity cost. Okay, different shapes, fine. But like, what does this mean, right? If you think about the numbers, now don't focus too much about what we've written here. First and foremost, we've written here saying there are reasons why these things happen. That's the first thing you need to know. Reasons why these things happen. What are the reasons? For an example, for it to be either constant or increasing or decreasing, right? Reasons for different opportunity costs. So there are two main factors. One is whether the resources are homogeneous or heterogeneous. That is the first factor. Homogeneous or non-homogeneous. If resources are homogeneous or non-homogeneous. Non-homogeneous means same. Non-homogeneous means it can also be called as heterogeneous, difference. That is the first part. If it's homogeneous, if it's the same, then we say it's constant opportunity costs. If it is non-homogeneous, we say it will either be increasing or decreasing. So we'll put this in a table, maybe that should be better, I think. If we are saying it is, so let me explain this. I'll explain this, but if you want to have constant opportunity costs, this is increasing or decreasing, depends. If this is homogeneous resources, it will be constant. This is non-homogeneous resources. Or the other one is also there, which is if the resources efficient for the industry is the same for both industries. Resources efficient for one industry, same for the other industry. Here we are saying it's not the same. Resources that are efficient for one industry is not efficient. To be honest, we don't really ask questions on this part. Like how to draw, like what would it be like opportunity cost is increasing or decreasing? Like we might ask the reason, saying like what is the reason for straight line, or what is the reason for these curves? What is the reason? We might ask the reason, But technically, we don't really ask you to decide. There have been very less questions on that. But see, I always believe in preparing you for the worst. So let's prepare for the worst. What is this actually? Go back to the example I told you. Can you remember? I told you what? Beds. And then I told you trees. No, tables. Yes. Did we have a constant? Did we have a straight line? Remember, we had a straight line. And then we said under beds, we said 1000, then 500 and 0. And under tables, what did we say? I said 0, 250 and 500. These are the three numbers. Yes. What do you mean by constant opportunity costs? Every time, look at this, every time I reduced 500 beds, Metanath I reduced 500, Metanath I reduced 500 beds. Yes, these were the numbers, right? Every time I reduced 500 beds, how many tables did I get? 250 tables I got. Is that correct? That was what we drew before. Okay. Every time I reduce 500 beds, I increased 250. So we can calculate a ratio between these two. If we want to calculate an opportunity cost between these two, okay, we can do that. How do we do that? Let me put this to the next page. How do I do that? How do I calculate what is the opportunity cost between these two? The equation. There's an opportunity cost equation that we use. What is that? Go back to the tune. In this part, I have given that equation. I have said opportunity cost, OC, is equal to foregone divided by increase. You have to remember this. Huh? This is very important. Opportunity cost is equal to OC is equal to foregone. Foregone means what are we losing? OC is equal to foregone divided by increase. This formula you have to remember because this one gets tested quite a lot. So this is the equation. How did we come up with this equation? What does this equation mean? OC divide is equal to foregone divided by increase means what? Come back to that same thing. What is foregone? What are we sacrificing? This is foregone. So we are sacrificing 500 beds here. Foregone divided by what are we getting? We are getting 250 tables plus 250. Foregone, we are sacrificing 500 beds. Every time we sacrifice 500 beds, we got 250 tables. No? So that is the increase we are talking about. So if I ask you to calculate opportunity cost for this example, minus 500 divided by plus 250. 500 divided by 250 is 2. And minus divided by plus is minus. So opportunity cost usually comes in minus. It's a minus 2. Right? Because if you remember, I said 1 tree for 10 beds, 1 tree for 5 tables. Kind of like a 1:10, 1:5 ratio only I took. Again, we won't ask you like that. But what I'm trying to explain here is, look at this. Every time we sacrifice 500 tables, we got 250. No? So in this example, in every point here, our opportunity cost is always minus 2 only. From here to here also is minus 2. From here to here also is minus 2. From wherever else we do also it will be minus 2. Why? Because my initial ratio was constant. Remember, I said whenever I'm talking about trees, 1 tree can produce either 10 beds or 1 tree can produce 5 tables. That's the ratio I took. Remember, 10:5, that ratio is like 2. No? So that's the ratio I took and I didn't change that ratio. Whenever I went put all these numbers, I maintained it. That is why we say, yes, when the resources are homogeneous. It was a homogeneous resource, no? Why? We used trees. For bed and table both, we used trees. And for bed and table both, we use the same carpenters, we use the same machines. So homogeneous resources, same. And the efficient resources efficient for beds were the same resources that were efficient for tables also. Usually when that is the case, that opportunity cost remains constant because I took the same ratio. And like when you calculate the opportunity cost at every point, it's always minus 2, minus 2, minus 2. which is why this curve is a straight line. But imagine if I took something like this, where like one axis was beds, okay? The other axis was, let's say, TV. Then to be honest, it's still possible to have a straight line. It's still possible. But truth be told, the resources are not homogeneous. For beds, we are using trees, right? We are using wood, no? So we are using wood for beds. For TV, we are using electronics, circuits. So different resources, to be very honest. And one efficient resources that are efficient for bed is not usually efficient for TVs also. So then technically, I mean, again, we can still draw like a straight line. There'll be examples where they will give you with a straight line. So don't think, then the homogeneous resources are not there. No, so then how can they draw a straight line? They can still come up with some formulas and they can still put it. But if you really think about it, here the resources are not homogeneous. Yes. So then technically this has to be a curve. It can either be a curve like this or it can be a curve like this. It'll either be increasing or decreasing, which is what we're going to look at next. But that is what it means by this one. This constant opportunity cost, increasing, decreasing opportunity cost. Okay, the difference between those two is that because earlier when I did the trees example, that is why we got a constant opportunity cost, where at every point it was equal. Okay, so if you come back to the tute, if you calculate foregone divided by increase, it's going to give you the same this thing. So come back to this. Now, these are all things you can check and fill the tute, right? You can check it and fill the tute. So if you come back to this, this graph that is there on your this thing. So constant opportunity cost, the definition is this: the foregone amount has to be unchanged while increasing the other good. So if they ask you to give the definition for these, by the way, you need to have the definition. I'll just say definitions and let me include a couple of definitions also. Constant opportunity cost definition is this one, which is, sorry. That is well, this one. If the foregone amount remains unchanged. In school term test, sometimes, these definitions are very common. If the foregone amount of the other good remains unchanged while increasing fixed amount of a certain good. That is the constant opportunity cost. And increasing or decreasing opportunity cost is, you have to say it's increasing or decreasing. We will probably just say only for increasing. If the foregone amount of the other good increases while increasing the fixed amounts. Here it has to remain unchanged. Here it has to increase. That's the difference between the two definitions. Okay. So now in your tute, we have given two examples of these curves. I'm not going to bring that to the short note because this part of the short note is actually more than enough as far as opportunity cost is concerned. But let's just quickly look at this, what this is. Look at this curve. This is the example we have taken. Your teacher's guide also has taken the same, brought it from that. So if you take a look at this is the curve. Look at this. If it's a straight line, opportunity cost also has to be what? Constants. So take a look at this one. When this is moving from A to B, this is B, where we are having, let's say, 1 and 16, basically, right? So that is B, this is A. So when we are moving from A to B, what's happening? This is B, this is A. We are actually B. So B was 0 before. Now we are moving to 1. Like this, we are adding 1 of good X. So here we can say from here to here means we are adding +1. This is +1. This is +1, right? So, but every time we want to increase good X, foregone divided by increase. That is the opportunity cost formula, right? Foregone divided by increase. Opportunity cost. What are we increasing? We are increasing good X. So good X is going up by +1. how many goodbye we are losing? From 20 it is coming. From 20 it's coming to 16, which means we are losing -4. Correct? This is -4. So what is the opportunity cost? -4 divided by +1 is -4. Opportunity cost is -4. Let's talk about this line. From C to D, if we are moving, we are going from this to this. So that means we are going from 12 to 8. We are sacrificing 4. How many are we getting? We are going from 2 to 3, which means we are getting 1. We are getting 1 no, plus 1. Yes. So that is also then -4 divided by +1. That is also -4. So wherever you take, whether you're going from A to B or B to C or C to D or D to E or E to F, the opportunity cost is always -4, which is why it's a straight line. To be honest, when it comes to opportunity cost, you can look at it the other way around also. What is that? Now earlier I was going from top to bottom, no, like this, no. Let's go from bottom to top. Let's say we are moving from E to D. What is E? 4. What is D? 3. This time we are reducing. -1. This is -1. We are going from 4 to 3. But what's happening from this side? E means 4. D means 8. So we are going from 4 to 8 plus 4. And now do the opportunity cost calculation. Foregone means -1. Divided by increase means +4. So now -1 divided by +4. You can leave this as it is. If you simplify this as a decimal, you get -0.25. But don't go to decimals, just leave it as -1 over +4. Now do this in another place. Let's say this is going from D to C. Again, if you're going from down, you have to go from down only. You can't compare down and up to M back. D to C anagota. Again, from D means 3. Yes. C means 2. So this is -1. But D also means 8. C also means 12. So this is again +4. So then that is also OC is equal to -1 divided by +4. So whether you're going from top to bottom also, it's always -4, -4, -4, which is what we have shown here. When you're going from bottom to top also, it's always -1 over 4, -1 over 4, -1 over 4. So it's constant, no? It's not increasing, it's not decreasing, it's constant. At every point, it is constant. That is what we have drawn these arrows and shown, just like what I showed you now. So if it's constant, it has to be linear. Simple. Okay. Now comes the increasing opportunity costs. So what is the increasing opportunity cost? That is this. Let me take this curve as the next one. Look at this curve, right? Look at this curve, look at the points. Let's start off with maybe some clear, let's say C to D. We are going from C to D. What is happening? C to D means, what is C? C is 40. D is 60. So C to D means 40 to 60 means we are increasing this by +20. But on the other hand, on this side, C is 150. On this side, D is 110. So 150 to 110 means we are actually going -40. So what is the opportunity cost here? OC is equal to -40 divided by foregone divided by increase. -40 divided by 20, which is equal to -2. That is there. So this point is -2. But look at this point. Let's say E to F. This is F. Let's say E to F. E is what? 60. F is what? 0. So from here to here, we are doing -60. But E also means 80. So 80 to 100 means +20. Now what is the opportunity cost here then? OC is equal to foregone is -60. Increase is 20, which means this is -3. So can you see how the opportunity cost has changed? This was -2, this is -3, which means opportunity cost has increased. Now, whenever we are talking about opportunity cost increase, decrease, don't think of it in terms of a number line, right? Don't think, okay, in the number line, -3 is there, then -2 is there. then -1, then 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. So in maths, they have taught us no, -2 is bigger than -3. Then how can you say it's no? Don't think like that. In quant, right? We just forget about this, like this sign in the front. Forget about the sign in the front. 2, 3. 3 is bigger, no? So think about it in that way. Right? Usually this sign comes because opportunity cost has to always be a, like in these cases, opportunity cost always has to be a minus, because we always say foregone divided by increase, no? So it has to be a minus. But here 3 is bigger than 2. So technically this is increasing opportunity cost, which is why this is coming as a concave curve. Don't think of it in terms of the number line. Here, don't get confused. In chapter 2 also there are certain elasticities and things like that we will learn. Put the minus and the plus for, just remember it for certain things. I'll show you what to do in chapter 2. Here, don't overthink. Opportunity cost has to come in a minus. Leave that aside and talk about the absolute values, which is 3, 2. Think about those. So if we come back to this tune, I've given a table. -2, -3 I've calculated. Look at this. So technically, it was -1, then 1.5, then 2, then 2.5, then 3. So technically, OC, along the curve when we are going, OC is increasing. And if you go reverse also, if you go from down to up, just like how I did before, that also, for an example, if you go down to up, it'll go from 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6 scale. It'll increase. If you want, you can do the calculations and see after looking at this chart, it's in your tune. It'll increase on the other side as well, which is why we are saying down to up or up to down doesn't matter. This is basically increasing opportunity cost. Decreasing also, you can draw like this technically. So this is what PPC shows. PPC is about, if you want to increase one product, you have to sacrifice the other product. Why? Because of scarcity. Yes. So if you're doing that, right, sometimes the opportunity cost, the ratio can be constant, which means the line will be a straight line. If not, sometimes it could be increasing, whereas it's going to be a concave line, or it can be decreasing, which will be like a gym boy's belly base. So these are the 3 things you need to remember when it comes to the opportunity cost part. That's your opportunity cost part. Oh, can you take let me zoom out, hold on. You can take a screenshot of this. So that is your second part of your PPC short note. That is the first part of the PPC short note was about the PPC, the summary. Second part is about the opportunity cost. Third part is a shorter part. We have to talk about economic concepts. Fourth part is also a shorter part where we have to talk about efficiencies. So those are the 2 things that are left. Okay. Take a screenshot of this and then we move into the third part. Right. So in this part now, in the next part, we are going to cover the third section. The third section of the PPC as relatively less in terms of the content to cover. So very quickly, if you take a look, PPC can be used to show some economic, microeconomic and macroeconomic concepts. What are the microeconomic concepts? What are the macroeconomic concepts that we want to show? That is basically this. So we are going to use, so this is about opportunity cost. This is about the production possibility curve itself. Let's say PPC with microeconomic concepts. PPC with microeconomic concepts. That's the first one. Okay. What are the microeconomic concepts that we want to show? Right. Firstly, scarcity. Scarcity, alternative users, and choice. That's the first one. Scarcity, alternative users, and choice. How do we show these? I already explained to you. If you draw the PPC curve, yes, if you draw a PPC curve, you have your PPC curve. Any point on the curve shows full utilization of resources. So whether you want to choose this or choose this or choose this, all these are alternative users. End of the day, you can choose anything you want. But the moment you choose one, that becomes your choice. And how is scarcity shown? Any point outside the curve is only scarcity. So that's the summary there. Yes. So that I'm just going to bring this curve here, right? We can say any point outside shows scarcity. The different points on the curve itself shows the alternative users. And what is the choice? When we pick what, either B or C, when we pick that, that basically becomes our choice. Okay. So that one is what I'm going to draw here. You can draw this as well and keep. This is your short note number 1. Understood? Scarcity means it's a point outside the curve. Alternative users means any point on the curve. When you're picking one of those, whether B or C or any of those points, that's your choice. So that's how we show this, the microeconomic concepts of alternative users, scarcity and choice. Next, we have to talk about the opportunity cost, how to show opportunity costs, right? Now, here I have given a note saying whatever I explain scarcity, alternative, that is the note here. So you can take a screenshot and fill it in the tube. But let's move on to the opportunity cost part. Opportunity cost part, I already spoke. Yes. What shows the opportunity costs? The curve, these 3. So this one is a repetition. If it's a constant opportunity cost, it's a straight line, right? If it's an increasing opportunity cost, it's a, it's a concave line. If it's a decreasing opportunity cost, it's a convex line. So how do we calculate opportunity cost? So here I'll give you a few most important points for you to remember which get tested. What is the calculation? Opportunity cost is equal to foregone divided by increase. Mathematically, if you see this foregone divided by increase, right? Technically, what that means is delta y over delta x. I'm just going to give you that because it doesn't get tested that much, but they say slope of the curve. In maths, you all would have studied this at some point in O levels. We say slope of the curve. OC is shown by the slope of the curve. Slope of that delta y divided by delta x. What is delta y? Foregone. What is delta x? Increase. That. The same thing. So that is the slope of the curve. Like in maths, delta y divided by delta x. That is basically the slope of the curve. So that is only opportunity costs, which is foregone divided by increase. Nothing new you have learned. The same thing only you have learned. Okay. So foregone divided by increase, slope of the curve is shown by the opportunity cost. One more important thing is this comes a lot in MCQs. If I had time, I'd have put that MCQ and shown. So I'll give that will come in the past paper video separately. There's one MCQ that always comes like this, where they like most students get this wrong. They say they'll give you a curve. Okay? And okay, these points and all you can calculate. No, for what is opportunity cost? Opportunity cost is equal to foregone divided by increase. How much is delta y changing? Now see if you take this one, if you take this one to this one, right? Let's say you're moving from this point to this point. And let's say this is -4, this is let's say 10, and let's say this is 6 or something, right? Or let's say this is 100. And let's say this is 100, and let's say this is 150. So it's coming down by 50, no, -50. This is delta y, end of the day. No, this is delta y, no. And then let's say this is 50, and then let's say this is 75. So x is actually increasing. So 50 to 75, this is plus 25. This is technically delta x. This is x and this is y, no. So what is foregone? Foregone is basically delta y. What is increase? This is delta x. So foregone is -50. Increase is 25. So the opportunity cost is equal to -2. This is the calculation which I put there. Well, and something new there as well, actually. Okay. The simple math thing. That's all. Don't worry too much about it. But they will ask sometimes here, inside the curve, if we are moving from here to here, calculate the opportunity cost. Okay. So foregone divide by increase. No? So then some students, they calculate this. They're like, okay, foregone divide by increase means, let's see, okay, maybe this is okay, let's say 50, and let's say this is 40 or 25 or something. Then when they are moving like this, how do we calculate the foregone? How do we calculate the increase in HEMA? They come up with a number. That's wrong. Don't even bother to waste your time. Any point inside the PPC curve, zero opportunity costs. Zero. Why zero? Because we said any point inside the curve shows what? Underutilization of resources or wastage of resources. That's what we said. Yes. So when you're already wasting resources, remember earlier we said 55 trees we are wasting. When you're already wasting resources, 55 trees you're already wasting. What opportunity cost though? What's the point in calculating opportunity cost? They are already your resources are idle or wasting. You want to go and calculate opportunity cost on that also. There's no opportunity cost calculation for something that's already wasted, because opportunity cost means for the full utilization, you can see what you're losing. But here, to be honest, you're just losing more. So technically then, opportunity cost for a point that is inside the curve, zero. That's the third point I'm going to put. This will help you for those MCQs. There are some MCQs that they ask. For that, it's a 1 second answer. The moment you see the point inside, put it as zero, walk off. There'll be other students who will be spending 5 minutes doing the calculation. They will do 3-4 minutes they'll spend. For you, because you know this point, because you've done past papers, if you have done, I'm telling you this early, but ideally if you have done, it's a 1 second answer. You read, you see zero, you put you off. Simple as. Okay. So I'm adding that point also. So these are 3 points you need to know about opportunity cost. Next part of the tune is basically, there are 2 things that they have given called productive efficiency and allocative efficiency. Right? Now, to be honest, I'm going to explain this simply. I'm not going to go into far too many details here. But, you know, in theory, we talked about a lot of things in this. Some, like whatever is tested is what I'm going to talk about primarily. In this productive and allocative efficiency, there is only one main thing you need to understand, which is what I'm going to bring to the short note. This one. This is your summary. Productive efficiency. Then we come to allocative efficiency. Hold on, there are 3 things. Right? Then we come to economic efficiency. What are these 3 things? Productive efficiency plus allocative efficiency is equal to, no need to study it in 3 different ways. We will study it in one shot itself. Economic efficiency. What does this mean? 3 things. Okay. Basically, what this means is, earlier I told you simply, we'll talk about the nitty-gritties of these later down the line. In past papers, we can discuss if needed. This doesn't get tested too much other than what I have shown here. If you take a PPC curve, you have this PPC curve, and then I said no, every point on the curve, right? If you take this, let's say this is beds, and let's say this is tables. I told you any point inside is wastage. Any point outside is scarcity. But any point on the curve, full utilization, full production, basically, full maximum efficiency. So if you take any of these points, you can actually go for any of these points. Why? Because all of these points show productive efficiency. That is what we are saying. What do you mean by productive efficiency? Any point on the curve. That's it, right? It has to be on the curve. Huh? It can't be outside, it can't be inside. So productive efficiency means any point on the curve. That is what productive efficiency means. With me so far, full utilization of resources, full production, basically. Those are the 2 these things to me. Full employment or full utilization of resources, full production. 2 things. That is productive efficiency. Maximum output from all the resources of an economy. Okay. That is productive efficiency, first one. Should we draw a table here? Better. I will draw a table which shows these 2. which actually talks about the definition, plus also puts the condition. So make this smaller, this also smaller, this also smaller. Let's first one is productive efficiency. What did we say productive efficiency was? The definition is this one, achieving maximum output from all the resources. That's the definition. There are two conditions. What are the two conditions? Full utilization, full production. These are the two conditions. Okay. Basically, achieving maximum output. What I want you to remember is this is any point on the PPC. That's the first one. Okay. What about allocative efficiency then? If all points are showing us productive efficiency, right? What is allocative efficiency? Allocative efficiency, for us to meet allocative efficiency, the first condition is something called as price is equal to marginal cost. Okay. Where we say distribution of limited resources of an economy based on society's preference. So that's the definition. There is only one condition for this, where P is equal to price should be equal to marginal cost. Secondary requirement is marginal revenue equals marginal cost. MC. It can be marginal revenue equals marginal cost or price equals marginal cost. P is equal to MC or marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. I'll explain what this means now technically. So this is any point on the PPC. This one, when it comes to allocative efficiency, okay, there can only be one point. Whatever that society's preference point, that is the point where allocative efficiency is chosen. One point on the PPC based on society's preference. This is what we call as allocative efficiency. I'll explain, right? So when we talked about this in theory class, we spoke about a lot on what is marginal cost, what is marginal revenues, right? All of those. In chapter 4 only, we will come back to this to study about it in detail, saying what each of these are. So we don't have to focus too much about those parts now, right? But what you have to focus on is, if all these points are productively efficient, let's say now this is beds and tables once again, and let's say this is 750 beds, and this is somewhere around 300 tables. Okay. And let's say this one is, let's say 400 tables and lesser amount of beds, 250 beds, right? Some countries will pick for this, where they want more beds and less tables. Some countries will actually pick this one, where they might actually want more tables because they are studying people like you all, and less beds. I don't know. Depends on the society's preference. To be very honest, we say that society's preference is dependent on this condition of price equals marginal cost being met. What does this mean? In chapter 4, you all will study this in detail. There are different kinds of markets, like perfect competition, monopolistic competition. There are different kinds of markets. You all will learn that in chapter 4. Marginal cost, marginal benefit, all of these things also you all will learn in detail there. Price equals marginal cost means, think of it this way. Marginal means every time we are producing one more product. So let's say we have 100 products right now in production. Let's say we produce one more 101, one more product if we are producing. Okay. What is the cost for that? Let's say earlier we had 40,000 costs was our total cost. For that one more product, let's say this 40,000 went up to 40,100, the total cost, I'm saying. Then for this one more product, cost increase by plus 100. No. Agreed. Full cost was 40,000. When we produced one more product, full cost increased to 40,100. So this plus 100 is basically the marginal cost. For one more product, what is that additional cost? In chapter 4, we will learn about this in detail. So attend those theory classes. We'll teach about this in detail there. Marginal cost means for one more product. For a society to be allocatively efficient, we say, when we are producing this one more product, the cost is 100 rupees. No, this 100 rupees, let's say we are producing a pen, Reynolds pen. Now that produced, the additional product we produced was 100 rupees was the cost. So think of this price of the pen as 100 rupees. If we want to sell this in the market, the price, right? Ideally, if we are selling at more than 100, let's say the price is 150, we'll get a profit. If we are selling less than 100 rupees, let's say we are selling at 75 rupees, we are going to get a loss. So if we sell at least at 100 rupees, at least we can cover that costs. We call it as break even in accounting. We cover the cost at least. Yes, that is that price. Think of that as kind of like the price equals marginal cost. In chapter 4, we will learn this. There's something called profit maximization, right? There's something called imperfect competition markets. This is how it is. Like that, there are certain concepts you all will learn. But for now, you just have to remember only this part. In these markets where if we want to decide allocative efficiency, that point has to be where at least the price of this product, the price has to be at least equal to the cost. Nothing, it's a loss. Okay, let's say no need profit, but at least it should be equal. So that is that P equals MC part we are talking about. Think of it like that. In chapter 4, we will learn this in detail. So we say in allocative efficiency, this P equals MC is compulsory. If P equals MC is met. So that's why I come back to this PPC now. Maybe for a country like Sri Lanka, maybe this is our P is equal to MC. This point only we are getting P equals MC. So then that is our allocative efficiency point. For a country like, let's say, UK, maybe for them this is P is equal to MC. That is their allocative efficiency point. So from country to country, it will change. All points are productively efficient. But for it to be allocatively efficient, only one condition is there, where P is equal to MC has to be met. That is this graph. Can you see? Any point on the curve. So productive efficiency is already there, full utilization of resources, full production. That same point, if that is the point where P is equal to MC is also done, then allocative is also done. And we say, for you to get economic efficiency, you should have productive plus allocative both. That is only economic efficiency. So questions will come based on this one graph. Just this. They'll say, explain how economic efficiency is attained, or what is economic efficiency. A questions, lot of they have come in the past papers. When we are doing those videos, you all will see. So then what is your answer? Economic efficiency means production efficiency plus allocative efficiency both. Productive efficiency means we need full utilization and full production both. It has to be any point on the PPC. Allocative efficiency means P is equal to MC has to be met, right? And it has to be only one point based on the society's preference, wherever P is equal to MC is met. That's the summary of this. Understood? So you can take a screenshot of this. Hold on. You can take a screenshot of this one first, which is scarcity plus alternative users plus choice, that part. I'll give you a few seconds for that. Okay. And then you can take a screenshot of scarcity plus alternative users plus choice, and then opportunity cost as well. And then you can take a screenshot of this productive efficiency plus allocative efficiency equals economic efficiency. In this one, we have also said one more. While you take a screenshot, I'm going to very quickly explain that as well. Where we have said marginal revenue is equal to marginal costs. Now listen carefully. In certain MCQs, they play the fool, right? They give you like this. In certain MCQs, they say, sometimes, I mean, they will just say, okay, price equals MC should be met. Simple. That is the answer then. Obviously, it's a direct question. Some MCQs, they give P is equal to MC, and maybe in the fifth, they also give you MR is equal to MC. They give you both. You have to prioritize P is equal to MC as your answer. If P is equal to MC is there, you should always go for that. If that is not there, you can go for MR is equal to MC. What is this MR is equal to MC? Now, this question, right, for an example, right, like there are, again, in chapter 4, we will learn this. In chapter 4 only, you will get the full idea of what is happening here. But the truth about these two is, P is equal to MC is the first condition. That is the condition that has to be met. If the MCQ doesn't have that answer, and if this answer is there, you can go for MR is equal to MC. What does this mean? This means like this. We spoke about marginal cost for every additional unit. Every additional unit, they are being a, So let's take a look at like this. I'll give you an example using this. This is the theory example I gave. Look at this example. Quickly explain this, right? When we are increasing units from 100 units to 101 unit, that is what we call as marginal product. Every additional product. Listen, now simple. This concept is simple. Just pay attention for 1 minute. Every time I increase my unit by 1, my cost is going from 5,000 to 5,050 means my marginal cost is plus 50. Revenue also can be calculated at the end of the day, because here we are saying 100 rupees is the price of this pen in this question. So our revenue is going from 10,000 to 10,100. So for this one product, my revenue is 100. Okay. So that is what we call as marginal revenue. In this example I have given, for that one additional product, marginal product, my marginal cost MC was 50. The cost per pen was 50. My marginal revenue also was basically 100 for that pen. Now, in this example, we gave a selling price of this pen is also 100. So technically, in this example that I have given, my marginal revenue is also 100. My price is also 100. In this example, my price and my marginal revenue is equal. That is what I have put here. Marginal revenue can also be called as marginal benefit. It's another name. Just don't overcomplicate. For an additional product, marginal cost plus 50. Here, marginal revenue is actually more. So this is not allocative efficiency point. I'm just explaining marginal revenue and price are equal. There are certain instances where price and marginal revenue will be equal. Certain instances, not always. That is why we are saying, now in this instance, it was equal. Selling price was also 100, because in this example, selling price was given as 100. Marginal revenue was also 100. So in these examples, again, that is something we'll study in chapter 4. So don't overcomplicate. In theory, I explained it deeply, but no need to complicate for the short note. Just remember, there are some instances where marginal revenue and price are equal. I will add that point if you want here, just for you to remember, right? We have in chapter 4, you all will learn something called perfect competition markets. Okay. In perfect competition markets, just remember this for now. In chapter 4, you will come back to this. Price and marginal revenue are equal. P is equal to MR. Like that example I showed you, P is equal to MR. So if your MCQ asks, P is equal to MC, price is equal to marginal cost, marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost. If your MCQ asks, this P is equal to MR, equal when only in perfect competition markets. In imperfect competition markets, these two are not equal. So you have to always go with the first one. But in perfect competition markets, both of this is relevant. P is equal to MC, MR is equal to MC, both are relevant. That is why I have said MR is equal to MC is secondary here. Why secondary? In perfect competition markets, that works because MR and P is same. Perfect competition. Whereas in other markets, it's not. That is why. Anyways, as far as chapter 1 short note is concerned, that question has not been asked. I would prefer it being asked. We will discuss this in the model questions, right? In the paper classes. I already gave that question in the theory also. But just remember, this second one, this marginal revenue equals marginal cost, that is secondary. That is relevant only for perfect competition markets. Remember it like that. The first one is always relevant. Second one is not always relevant. That's it. So if we ask a question, you just focus on P is equal to MC. That's all. If you want to show off your knowledge, you can also say in perfect competition markets, MR is equal to MC is also relevant. Show off. But you don't have to remember that as far as the short note is concerned. This is enough. Okay. That's it. This part is also covered. Microeconomics concepts is covered. Last thing that we have to cover is macroeconomic concepts. I think we can take another 20 minutes quickly and finish that off because that's easy. As far as macroeconomic concepts is concerned, let's finish that, right? This is about economic growth, economic depression. It's about those. It's not very complicated, right? Let's quickly do that. And quite a lot of MCQ questions come from this also, to be honest, right? As far as your syllabus is concerned, these are the macroeconomic concepts we have to talk about. Firstly, we have full employment, unemployment. We already did that. Full employment and unemployment. How are we supposed to show these two using a PPC curve? Yes. Full employment means on the dot, on the curve. Unemployment or underemployment or wastage of resources or idle resources, any of these words they can use means what? Insights. So that is that simple. We already studied this. Full employment means on the curve. Underemployment or unemployment means insight. That's it. That's the first one. Then we have economic recessions. And then we have economic depressions. Recession means short term, right? Your boyfriend ran away from you, you cried for 2 days, that's all, right? Depression means, so like short term, 6 months, less than 6 months. Depression means long term. You think about it again and again, and you kill yourself again and again, and you know, you put yourself into pain and suffering, and then you put like statuses saying, I'm laughing on the inside. See, I'm laughing on the outside, but I'm crying on the inside, and my life is miserable, and can I die yet? That is basically depression long term. If you want to come out of depression, only you can, by the way, right? So what is this? How are we supposed to show that with a curve? Now, economy is also like that. More than 6 months, if the economy keeps coming down, that's depression. But less than 6 months, short term, if it goes up and down like that, that's recession. Okay, so recession is short term, depression is long term. Recession is usually shown by a point movement. What does that mean? If the PPC curve, we are talking about here, on the curve we are, but from on the curve, it moves temporarily inside. From full employment, it's going into underemployment or unemployment. Those are what we call as recessions. The curve doesn't move, okay? Only a point moves. But if the whole curve moves, like from here, the curve is moving inside. For the curve to move, what are the two things that should change? Either resource stock should change or productivity should change. So depression means those are changing. Maybe it's a war, people are dying. So labor is decreasing. So resource stock is reducing. I'll talk about the reasons in the next section. Or productivity. Your technology is gone. So maybe it's a shift. So if the entire curve is shifting inside, that is basically what? Depression. Whereas only a point movement means it's recession. Okay. And the same thing can happen the other way around. If it moves out, We already spoke about that. So economic growth is actually shown by a point movement outside. Economic recession and economic growth means, sorry, economic depression means recession is point movement, depression is entire curve is shifting to the left. Whereas growth means it's not a point movement, entire curve has to shift to the right. It has to go out. Like I told you at the beginning itself, how do we move out? How do we go and catch that scarcity? How do we do that? Either our resource stock has to increase or productivity has to increase. And also, guys, one axis also can move up. For an example, if they give you an example question like this one, where they say, PPC is like this. One axis is agriculture industry. The other axis is services. And then they are saying, we are employing new tractors and things like that in the agriculture industry, so that output of the agriculture industry is going to be great. If that happens, let's say 1,000 is the maximum here, agriculture industry will increase. This will become, let's say 1,005. Make a vitarai. Tractors can't be used in services. No. So services won't move. It will still stay here. But agriculture will move. That is also growth, because it's growth in agriculture, which means it will contribute to the growth of the economy. So one axis also can move. But on the other hand, let's say some drought has come, paddy fields are destroyed, cows have died, then what will happen? Services won't move, but agriculture will move inside, which means this is depression, decline in agriculture, which means it will cause a depression, decline in economy also. But one axis also can move. Be very careful about what the MCQ is asking. If it's relevant to only paddy field and all, that's only agriculture, not services. But if it's related to computers, maybe something like that, then that's only services and not agriculture. So either both can move or one can move. You need to be careful on that as well. Okay. So we've covered full employment, unemployment, underemployment, recession, depression, growth. Last thing we have to cover is allocation of resources. Right? Allocation of resources is also simple. We'll quickly cover that. Right? That is where we say allocation of resources means if we focus too much on the present. In this, we have said if we focus too much on the present. Now, there is something called consumer goods. There's something called capital goods. Consumer goods means like electronics, furniture, everything you're using now, those are consumer goods for your satisfaction. Capital goods means things that we are using in machinery, like factories. Say, for an example, let's say you have a factory and you're producing phones inside this factory. When this phone goes to the end customer, right? The phone is basically what? Consumer good. Because that's what's going to the customer. But all the machines inside this factory, yes, we are using to produce that phone. Those are what we call as capital goods. So think about it this way. The more consumer goods we have, we are living in the present. Sri Lanka is a country like that. For us, it's about the present. We have to nicely enjoy life, dance, and then die, no problem. Screw F the future. That is how all our presidents were. All buggers nicely dancing. Nalla jolly panni 90 years venaka nalla jolly karala 90 years dance venota. Jolly karala focused everything on consumer goods. Where did they build factories? Where did they build? Only the British that they built the tea, the rubber, the coconut, that shit is still there. Even the train and the roads are still there. These buggers, what did they build new? Probably put a Dakshina Marga, Adivehi, Red, that's it. And built a bloody airport in the bloody middle of Mattala, which is useless. And then built a Hambantota harbor, which is useless again. Right? So, capital goods means those investments never came in Sri Lanka in the last 75 years. It was the British who did it and then went. After that, Red only we have done. So if you invest more in capital goods, right, factories and these machineries where they can build consumer goods, your future will be great. So capital goods is about future, consumer goods is about present. Sri Lanka is a country that focuses a lot on the consumer part because it's about Adha Jolly Kerala. Adha Jolly Kerala Kiela, they screwed us. Now the Adha Jolly Kerala is like 90 years old, buggers are gonna die. Whereas we are the ones who have to pay their loans back, we are the ones who have to pay their sins back. We have to, if I publish this video, um, right? So let's come back to this. The capital part, technically, yes, is where countries like UK, US, they have obviously invested in capital goods. So there it's about but the future. That is why we are saying allocation of resources means present versus future. If you're talking about consumer goods, that's present. If you're talking about capital goods, that's future. So in your short note, that part has to come first. Consumer goods is about the present consumption. So the capital goods is about future consumption. Future, or just say present and future. So but now how is this important? We say that the main thing you need to remember here is, okay, if you focus more on this one. So if you focus more on capital goods, right? I'll just bring it here. With this. If you focus more on the capital goods currently, allocate your resources towards capital goods, produce more capital goods, your economy will grow faster because you're producing more capital goods now. So those capital goods will produce more and more consumer goods now, which means your economy will grow faster. That's what we have said here. So if you focus more on capital goods, there'll be a higher economic growth rate. I mean, consumer goods also equal. Now, this in this example, in the first graph, we have put it equal. Where basically 100 capital goods and 100 consumer goods, both. So economy is growing but slow. Whereas in the second category, we have actually focused more on the capital goods than the consumer goods. So their economic growth is faster. So if we ask you to, so allocation of resources towards capital goods results in faster or higher economic growth. That is what you need to highlight. If they ask you for a graph, this kind of a graph you can draw and show. I'll bring this to paint, hold on, and then bring it back. Something like this, where we say, look at these two graphs. We are saying, first graph, okay, we are saying, like here, capital goods is 100, consumer goods is also 100. But in the second one, capital goods is 250, consumer goods is 200. So this is more. Therefore, the growth is more. Here, the growth is less, slower. Understand? But as far as the short note is concerned, you can draw that and show if the question comes. This is the most important part. Allocating resources towards capital goods results in higher economic growth. Consumer goods, if you allocate resources, your economic growth is slow. Sri Lanka is the best example for Heta Marunath Hitata Sapai Adha Jolly Kerala. If I listen to that song, my wire is burning. So I don't want to go back down the political path again. So let's focus on this. Last one is where we talk about the last part of PPC is where we talk about this one. Allocation of resources is over. That's the other one. Here, no. Production capacity. How are we supposed to increase our this thing? So what are the two ways in which the PPC curve can move? If you want your PPC curve, right? If you want your PPC curve to shift to the right side, right? In the beginning itself, now I spoke about this only. In the last also, we're going to talk about this. If you want your PPC curve to move to the right, what are the two things you can change? Either you have to get more resources or you have to get more productivity. Your productivity, your technology has to increase or your resources have to increase. Yes. So there are two ways in which resource stock can increase. There are two ways in which productivity, here we are going to talk about resource stock. resource stock එක increase decrease ගැන කතා කරලා resource stock increase වෙනවා නම් PPC will expand, shift to the right. What are the reasons that can happen? And if resource stock decreases, what will happen to PPC? PPC shifts to the left. So that is what we are talking about in this section of the tube. There we are saying, if we want PPC to shift to the right, resource stock should increase. What are the ways in which resource stock can increase? These are the ways. There's a list here. You don't have to memorize everything. We are saying discovery of new resources, right? Or they said no, Mana has oil here, so those are like new resources being discovered. Or obtaining new ownership of resources. Or now India or South India, Vijay had made a statement saying Kachatiyu is theirs. That is what they are basically trying to get. They are trying to shift their PPC to the right by getting Kachatiyu. Inflow of resources from foreign countries. If foreign countries start investing in Sri Lanka, increase in resource stock through new technology. What is that? That is not about productivity, by the way. That is about, now, let's say for an example, in 1800, there was no oil. No. But because we had new technology which can drill oil out, in the 1900s, we discovered oil. That was a completely new resource. So maybe there'll be a new technology that requires, something that Sri Lanka has. And maybe that is the way where we will become the richest country in the world. Who knows? Don't laugh. Can happen. Right? Can happen. Maybe one day they will discover a machine there. Only like some element in Sri Lanka is there. We can become rich. Who knows? So that is increase of PPC will shift to the right if we have these things. Discovery of new resources, obtaining new ownership of resources, inflow of resources from foreign countries, or increase in resource stock through new technology, or if we can get foreign loans, aids, investments, our resource stock will increase. What about population? If outside people come to Sri Lanka and settle, population increase when our resource stock will increase. Labor, no? Never happens. Nobody will come here and settle here. But like in Canada and all, this is what happens. Their population increase when their PPC shifts to the right. That's why no matter how much all these protests are there, they are still keeping open, no? Still immigration is open. If you hate people, Asians so much, close the immigration. Right? They won't do that. Opposite of all of this is basically the decline. PPC will shift to the left. So destruction of resources due to war. War will, destroy cities, destroy lives. Natural disasters, once again, will destroy cities, will destroy lives. Decrease in foreign investment if foreign investment is not coming to the country anymore. And lastly, if population is leaving the country. In Sri Lanka, that's primarily what's happening. Population is actually leaving the country. So this is increase and decrease. Next one is about technology. Technology or productivity, basically, right? So productivity is the second point. Productivity. This also, if it increases or decreases, right? PPC will shift to the right, PPC will shift to the left. What are the ways in which productivity can increase? If we are getting any sort of new technology, productivity will increase, right? If new techniques in production is brought, the new methods of doing, giving training to workers will actually increase that thing. Look at this, by the way, we have put immigration here also. Immigration we put here also, saying it will increase the resources when people are coming into the country, more resources, more people, therefore population, resource stock. Why have we put productivity also? We have put, because be very careful, sometimes MCQs can come here. Here we are talking about skilled workers, not just immigration. Immigration means it will increase labor. But if the skilled workers are coming, then that increases productivity because they are more efficient. They are more efficient, they are faster. Yes. So then that increases productivity. So look for the word skilled. If the skilled word is there, fine. That comes under productivity. If they just say immigration, that comes under what? That comes under the resource stock. Understood? Be careful there. That's something new you will learn there as well. And then this is again immigration of skilled workers, people leaving the country. Outdated production techniques, outdated technology use karana kota this thing will come. So that's about it, I guess. Migration of population into the country, increase in population. So this is about productivity, and that is about, I guess that's about resource stock. So you can take a screenshot. Hold on, did I give you time to take a screenshot here? No, right? So take a screenshot here first and foremost. Draw this and, mark it the same way I have marked. You can take this one. And then you can take a screenshot of this one. Okay. And then lastly, you can take a screenshot of this one. That's basically your, hold on. There you go. That's basically the end of the PPC. This can be broken down, break this video down into multiple, these things, and slowly write down the short note for the entire thing. So that's the summary of everything we have discussed so far. Short note for PPC became a little bit long, I think. So we had this one, right? And then we had, so let's quickly scroll down from the beginning itself. It's not that long, even though I've explained it and took a lot of time and done it. So we first spoke about the definition, we spoke about the assumptions, we spoke about the factors, the most important factors and how to change it. Then we spoke about an example. I drew the PPC and show it to you what to do. Then we spoke about opportunity cost, what happens if it's increasing or decreasing, and what is the shape of the curve. Then we spoke about the equation and we said increasing means this month. This is how we calculate it. And this is the reason why it can be like that. And this is the definition. So we did that. And then we spoke about what are the microeconomic concepts, what is scarcity, alternative uses, and choice, how to show opportunity costs. And we did that discussion. Then we spoke about what is productive allocative efficiency and what are the most important points to remember. It's a very common question, by the way. And then macroeconomic concepts for the full employment, unemployment, we discussed. Recession, depression, we discussed. Economic growth, we discussed. And then allocation of resources, consumer versus capital, future versus present, we discussed. And finally, how the resource stock increases or decreases, that can change. And productivity increases or decreases, that can change. This is a summary of the PPC. If you can remember these points, you're good to go, man. This is a very common, this area always gets tested in chapter 1. And believe me, you'll get like good marks. Can obviously be this thing as long as you can, remember this. Okay. So that's about it with regards to the short notes. I'll quickly show the tute as well for your benefit in terms of, you can fill this tute for those of you who don't have it. We spoke about definition for PPC, and then we spoke about factors, assumptions first. Then we spoke about the opportunity cost being constant, increasing this part. And then we spoke about the reasons for constant opportunity cost, reasons for increasing, decreasing opportunity cost. Spoke about constant opportunity costs. We said this is the curve that comes, right? And then we said this is the calculations. Increasing, decreasing opportunity cost. We said the increasing, this is the curve, and this is the calculations once again. Okay. And then we spoke about the economic concepts. This one is in the short note also, scarcity, alternative uses, and choice. And then we spoke about productive efficiency, allocative efficiency. These are just highlighted. And we spoke about how when those two are equal, only the allocative efficiency is met, right? And this is that graph. And then we spoke about full employment, underemployment. We spoke about recession, depression. Then we spoke about agricultural goods, as in how the recession, depression is shown. Spoke about economic growth, right? And then allocation of resources, present versus future. And then this one explains those two graphs. I already explained this. And then production capacity, resource stock productivity. And then how the resource stock will change the PPC, how it will decrease the PPC. And then how productivity will increase the PPC and how that's going to decrease the PPC. That's basically it. So successfully, we have covered the short note for the PPC as well now. What you need to do next is move to the past paper. Start with past paper 2, P2 past papers, last 10 years you do, and then you move into P1 MCQs, last 10 years. Okay. So that ends this video. I will meet you in another one. Surely. So what is important is get the short note done and then move on to the past papers, do the past papers, move on to the model papers, do the model papers. If you can get that done, your A is not a big deal at all. Even if you score low in model papers, even if you score low in spots and semesters, it's still okay. You keep doing it because that will give you that A at the end. You believe the process, you trust the process, and you work towards it. You won't go wrong. This is something that, you know, for years now, people have followed and they have gotten into university already, right? So it will work for you also. All right. Okay. So that's about it with this webinar. That is quite long. I wanted to finish it in 1 hour, but it has come up to 2 hours, 15 minutes or so. So maybe when uploading the VODs, maybe I can break it down into two. Let's see. Basic econ can be broken down into 2 videos. PPC can be broken down into 2 videos. So let's see. But I will upload it for your reference. People who missed it, you can ask me for the recording. So I will put it in your respective groups also. All right. So I will meet you next week. I'm not sure if I will have a webinar. I'm a bit occupied, but chapter 2 webinars also will start. A level 27, you guys are still doing the theory parts, but still it's okay for you guys to attempt that as well. Let's see. Let's see how that goes. All right. Okay, we'll wrap up there. I will see you all in classes. Hopefully that was useful. Get the short note done. We will meet soon. Take care. Bye bye. God bless. Good night.